Hello everyone, Tmmgamer here, and today I have the pleasure of bringing you another one of my Football Talk videos. Now today's Football Talk has a couple of interesting topics, but firstly let's talk about the game. I can't, because I am yet to decide what game I'm going to be putting over the top. But probably what I'm going to be doing is putting up a really frustrating game when I was playing against the Netherlands, for some of the footage for the Netherlands tutorial, when I absolutely mullered a guy, yet it finished 0-0. So if you want to see me miss a host of chances, that's probably the game I'm going to use. But as always, the main focus of this video is football, real life football, and today there's a couple of interesting things on quite a wide variety of topics. And the first one I wanted to talk about was this new UEFA League of Nations. And if you guys have yet to understand or see what's going on, basically the idea is for all of the European countries, footballing nations, to compete in a new tournament instead of just playing random international friendlies all the time. Because there's one thing that really annoys me about football is the international friendlies. Because if you look at a sport like rugby union, for example, with the test matches, every single game is incredibly intense and important. And it doesn't matter that you're just playing a random international in the autumn. It's still a huge deal, and a lot more weight is put onto those fixtures. But with a sport like football, with international friendlies, because it's completely the other way around. You know, in rugby, the national team comes first. The Premier League will go on during the season, and when the Six Nations comes round, half of the players of some teams will go off and play for their national teams, and the club teams just go on as normal. In football, it's completely the other way around. The club competitions come first, and the national teams always have to fit their fixtures in around the club season. And what that means is, with international friendlies, they are sort of a bit of a damp squib, because you get a lot of managers who don't want to let their players go. They're like, oh, they might get injured, it's December, we've got 7 fixtures coming up in the next 3 weeks, do we really want to have this international friendly? You know, I don't want players to be injured, they're going to be pulling out the squad. You get people, in inverted commas, injured, and then they play the full 90 minutes at the weekend for their clubs, which you'd think would be a little surprising if they were truly, in inverted commas, injured. So this is basically what the Nations League is going to try and tackle. From 2018, you know, the 54 UEFA member associations will play each other in basically, you know, the final format is yet to be decided, but there's going to be, you know, a competition to determine the best team in Europe at the time. And what they're going to be doing is actually for the lower divisions, because it's going to be set in certain tiers, you know, high to low tier. Like I've been saying, they haven't actually worked out the details of this, and this is still 4 years in the future, don't forget. But this is the core plan that's been agreed this week. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be offering qualification for, you know, the Euros in the summer for the lower divisions. So that's a massive incentive for this tournament. I think this tournament is a really cool idea, because at the moment, international friendlies, they're either occasionally, for example, you know, when England played Scotland at Wembley in the international friendly, that was a really big game because we don't play Scotland too often. You know, everybody was up for that match, and it was a tremendous game of football. But then you get like Netherlands versus Andorra, where Netherlands stick 17 goals past them and it's not even a challenge. Or, you know, some minor Eastern European nation plays the might of Spain, and Spain field their C team and still win comfortably. And that doesn't really help anybody, because, you know, if you're a lower skill national team, you want to be playing teams in and around your ability, because that's how you can slowly improve. And they've got sort of basically the same idea in cricket. You have like the tier 1 international nations, and then below that you've got the association members. So you've got the teams like Ireland, the Netherlands, Kenya, you know, Zimbabwe, because, you know, Zimbabwe were a test playing nation quite a while ago now, but they've knocked down. And the aim is basically you'll play amongst yourselves, you'll get a bit of experience, you'll begin to develop players, and then once you've improved enough, you'll move up and into the test playing arena. And this is sort of what I think this tournament is going to be like for football. You know, if you're in tier 3, at the moment, because there's like Wales, Ireland and Scotland, they're all very similar rankings in the UEFA standings, they're going to be playing each other quite a lot. And what this will actually encourage is teams to play people of their standard and get more experience, and, you know, not be demotivated. Because if you're a fan of like Kazakhstan or Albania, and you go into the qualification campaign for a World Cup, and out of the 12, 13, 14 games you play, you get like 7 points. That's got to be very demotivating for a country trying to promote sport. At least with this sort of style, you're going to be playing teams your own ability, you're going to be winning a few more games, you're going to be, you know, having positive news stories for the national papers to say, yeah, our national team actually won a game, let's support the boys and let's try and develop the sport. And this is definitely a good idea. And what I really liked about this actually as well is that this tournament is not going to take up every single international weekend available. The good thing is there are still going to be opportunities for teams to arrange high-profile friendlies. For example, if this tournament became a bit too all-encompassing and took up every single international window available, it would mean that England would never get the opportunity to play teams like Brazil or Argentina, or travel a bit further afield and play an African team, South Africa, for example, which would be interesting to see. So it still leaves that option available. So it will mean that the vast majority of dross international friendlies are removed and replaced with competitive games against teams of roughly your ability, because obviously you're not going to get 15 teams of all the same ability, but you'll get 15 teams with a lot closer ability than you would in the normal qualification campaign. So that's a good thing. And then in the rare times when you do get a bit of space for an international friendly, they'll actually organise it against the nation you want to see play. It will be England-Germany or England-Brazil or, like I mentioned, England-Argentina. Big international friendlies, which will draw a crowd, and there'll be less games like England, random B team from somewhere that we could get in because it was the only team available at the time. And this is a really good idea. I'm very, very happy to see UEFA agree. This was unanimously agreed as well, which is surprising because you very rarely see that in any big committee-based organisation, be it FIFA, UEFA, the UN, whatever. So to get all of the nations on board with this is a very, very good thing, and I hope to see it be successful and come to fruition. Well, 2018, it's a bit long, but I can understand why. They tend to plan the international schedules out quite a long way in advance. Obviously, they have to coordinate with all of the club teams as well, because like I mentioned, clubs come first with football and not international teams. So I can understand the delay, but it's going to be really interesting to see this tournament come to pass. And like I mentioned, if you incentivise winning it through qualification places, through just a nice trophy at the end of it, it would actually, hopefully, drive up competition, drive up standards, and drive up interest in international football. Because, I had quite a few friends who always say, I really don't like international breaks. I'd much rather see my club do well. International windows are just a waste of time. This is a step to try and combat that, and I'm actually quite pleased to see that this is coming about. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. The second thing, again, Manchester United related. And I know I've talked a lot about Manchester United recently in these Football Talk videos, but again, there's another interesting piece of news that I wanted to talk about. And Manchester United, they are the defending champions. They are having a bad season. They are definitely the hot topic of conversation at the moment. Again, they lost very comfortably to Manchester City. A solid 3-0 win from Manchester City. They really didn't look like losing that game at all. And this has really caused another backlash against David Moyes, because they had another mini revival with some good performances against Olympiacos and a solid win against West Ham, but then they just got completely outclassed against Manchester City. And again, poor tactical decisions from David Moyes. Firstly, playing Mata wide, never a good thing. Playing cleverly in a big game and cleverly again, underperformed. No surprise there, because he's had a terrible season. He really shouldn't be playing in these big games. But it's basically led to a bit of a backlash against David Moyes. And now some sections of the supporters are planning to fly anti-David Moyes banners over the stadium in upcoming fixtures. And this is on the back of stewards being sent to guard the Chosen One banner, which is hung up in Old Trafford. Obviously, the Chosen One banner refers to the fact that Sir Alex Ferguson handpicked David Moyes to be his successor. So, it's a big banner hung up saying the Chosen One, picture of David Moyes. And Manchester United actually had to station stewards by that banner to deter potential fan reaction against it, tearing it down. I don't know, but definitely a deterrence nonetheless. So this has led some fans to believe that the only way they can express their opinion is by flying over a message on a small plane. And that's basically the story. Now, for me, I think this is a little over the top personally, because Manchester United, they have had a really bad season by their own high standards. But for me, David Moyes is only partially to blame. Like I've mentioned before when I've talked about Manchester United, the reason why Manchester United are playing so badly at the moment is not because of David Moyes 100%, even though he has made tactical mistakes. It's because the players have just hugely underperformed. And let's not forget here, 95% of the team that David Moyes is playing in these games won the league at a canter last season, and you can argue, definitely you can argue, that that was because a lot of the other teams underperformed, and I will fully subscribe to that argument because I thought teams like Manchester City and Chelsea were average last season, but these teams have, while they've stepped up, United have regressed hugely. So for me, I think that it's a little bit over the top to fly a negative banner over Old Trafford about David Moyes, because that's certainly not going to help anything, is it? No, it's really not going to help David Moyes. It's not going to help the players play better. It's just a little bit over the top. And for me, a lot more of this has to be directed at the Manchester United players, because there are several players there who in these last few months of the season are undoubtedly playing for their Manchester United future. Not just their future at Manchester United, but their future at a top tier club, be it in England or be it abroad. You look at players like Cleverley, Evra, Ashley Young, Nani, Hernandez. I won't say Welbeck, because Welbeck has made a big difference when he's come on recently. Last season you could question whether he scored enough goals. That's still part of his game, where I think he can improve. But that was a bit unfair of me to suggest Welbeck there, because he's definitely progressing nicely. But there's certainly a huge proportion of that squad who are very, very average, and certainly played average this season. And it's really up to them to step up, because I think they became a little bit too comfortable at Manchester United. You had Ferguson there, winning came easy to them. You had a couple of key players who were just on fire last season, and all of a sudden those key players have been injured or had underperforming seasons, and the rest of the squad, the fringe players, the hangers-on, have been found out. And this is what it's come down to now. Manchester United as a whole need an overhaul. This is not just because of David Moyes, and a lot of people are very, very happy to see Manchester United fail. Obviously, when you're that successful, not only do you generate all of the hangers-on and the fans, but you generate a lot of resentment in other clubs, because they say, oh, United win all the time, I can't wait to see them lose. So you've got both sides now. You've got all of these people revelling in Manchester United's failure, and you've got a lot of the hangers-on associated with the big club. And this is not just a problem in Manchester United, this is every big club. I can remember seeing a tweet sent around after Chelsea lost a match earlier this season going, oh, that was absolutely awful from Chelsea. If they don't sort it out, I'm going to start supporting Manchester City again, which was it made me laugh and cry at the same time, that tweet. It was absolutely awful. But you get that with big clubs, and this is exactly the thing. And I think this flying the banner over Old Trafford is part of that. You get some of the fans who don't know what it's like to lose a game, and perhaps you should try supporting Aston Villa for 4 months, and then you'll certainly find that out. But Manchester United have been the dominant force for 20 years. That's the bottom line of it. They really have been. And they've lost a manager who was an icon of world football, not just British football, but world football. One of the most successful managers of all time, if not the most successful. They've got a very, very ageing squad. They've got several players there who are not fit to pull on Manchester United's shirt. And all of that is being blamed at one guy. One guy who has the hardest job in world football this season, which is replacing Sir Alex Ferguson. I think that's a little bit unfair, because yes, it's gone badly. And yes, David Moyes has made mistakes, but this is a massive step up for him. He's bound to make mistakes, and he needs the supporters at Manchester United to get behind him. And that's exactly what Sir Alex Ferguson said on his last home game. He was on the pitch and he said, whoever replaces me, you need to support them through thick and thin, because he obviously foresaw the problems that were going to be happening. And I thought it was quite a clever time for Ferguson to leave. He left on the high. Would have been nice for him to win the Champions League from his point of view, but he left winning the league. And he said, there you go, David, build your team. And that's exactly what needs to happen now, because Moyes has only really made 2 signings. He's bought players through like Januzaj, who he's definitely a David Moyes Manchester United player, Adnan Januzaj, because you hadn't really seen a lot of him this season. But it needs more, and it certainly needs more time. And if you give David Moyes another season and he's still underperforming, then you can possibly consider getting rid of him. But I think it's a little bit harsh at the moment, some of the things I've been saying. But once again, guys, thank you so much for listening to the video. I really hope you've enjoyed it. As always, I'll be very interested to hear what you guys have to think on both the topics I've discussed today. And that's it. So thanks for watching, and have a great day.